What's Marlon speaks live, yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Yeah, it's truth over comfort, I don't pick no side. If it shake the room a little, let the truth collide. Cause it's Marlon speaks live, no script, no disguise. I don't sell no lies, just to monetize. Cause the past still breathing and it never dies. Yeah, it's Marlon speaks live, now the truth will rise. Yo, it's Marlon speaks live, yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive.
It's Saturday morning. I mean, we're living. I say frequently, kind of half joking, that I'm tired of living through shitty history. But we're seeing the culmination of the last 40, 50 years, 400 years in this country. You know, I mean, this country has treated black and brown and native populations the way that it has for 400 years. And there was like a little window where things seemed like they were improving. And John Roberts and the Supreme Court are taking care of that right now by gutting the last provision of the Voting Rights Act. And, you know, we see people like Charlie Kirk saying that the passage of the Civil Rights Act, those both passed in 1964 and 1965. We're seeing people on the right like Charlie Kirk saying that the passage of the Civil Rights Act was one of this nation's biggest mistakes. And, you know, but primarily for white America, you know, we won World War II, and then through the 40s, the rest of the 40s into the 50s and into the 60s, we had really strong unions. We had massive marginal tax rates on the wealthy, and we built the middle class in this country. And then the 60s, and we passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And, you know, one thing I think a lot of people get disconnected on, it's like, you know, we like to talk about Susan B. Anthony and fighting for the right of women to vote and the 19th Amendment and things like that. Susan B. Anthony fought for the rights of white women to vote. She didn't fight for the rights of black women to vote. Not even a little bit. That didn't come until 40 or 50 years later. You know, but for a while there, it looked like we were progressing. And then, you know, starting in the early 70s, with people like the father of the Koch brothers, just decided enough is enough. Enough is enough. And then we elected Ronald Reagan after he partnered up with the religious right. And he did away with those high marginal tax rates on the wealthy. And Republicans started their 40-year-long war against public education and women. Their war against black and brown people never stopped. And, you know, now we are at a point, you know, and corporations were just like, well, we've had quite enough of wages keeping pace with inflation and things like that, so that stopped. And it's just been the 1% and white supremacists and white Christian nationalists grinding the middle class into dust over the course of 40 years. And we are at the culmination of that. I mean, we've got, last summer, we had the passage of the Big Beautiful Bill, which is going to cut $900 billion from Medicaid, $300 or $400 billion from SNAP benefits. We've done away with the Department of Education, which is what funded all of the before school programs, after school programs, school lunch programs. The Supreme Court took away a woman's right to bodily autonomy. And it's just take from everybody but the 1%. And now we've reached the culmination of that process where we have actual authoritarianism, and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem have brought back the Ku Klux Klan in the form of ICE, that is now kidnapping people in broad daylight with impunity, killing people in broad daylight with impunity, wearing masks, as an official arm of the office of the president, an official arm of the executive branch. It's like, it's not guys back in the woods who have to buy their own guns anymore. That money for their weapons and their equipment and their masks was appropriated to them by Congress. And now we've reached that final stage. I mean, I've made the joke so many times. It's like, I really didn't envision spending my late 50s fighting fascism and authoritarianism, you know, but these are the things that Black and brown and Native populations have been fighting in this country for 400 years. And only now, in 2026, the 250th year of the United States, happy birthday, America, only now in 2026 are these things being aimed at white people on scale. And, you know, I talk about this a lot on this app. For 57 years, I have lived with and benefited from every privilege that this country has to offer except for generational wealth. I am a heterosexual, cisgendered white man with a law degree, no kids, with some economic privilege, class privilege. And, you know, I think a lot of us are coming to grips with the fact that we're entering a phase in this country where those privileges aren't going to matter. And, you know, whether we've been willing to acknowledge how we white people have benefited from those privileges over the course of our lifetimes, we're about to find out what it's like. We're about to find out what it's like to have those privileges taken away. And then it's going to become a question of, you know, how much are we going to be willing to risk personally in our personal lives? How much are we going to be able or going to be willing to risk? How much are we going to be willing to put on the line to fight back against that, against what this country is becoming and what this government is doing? For me personally, that has been eating me up for the last few days, few weeks. It's tearing me apart internally because I'm not doing enough. I haven't been doing enough. I make little videos and I speak out, and then I go on about my day and I live my life the way that I want to. Yeah, I make little videos. I go to little white people protest marches every now and then, but I'm not doing anything. I donate money. I'm not risking anything. I'm not putting anything on the line. Certainly not in a way that, you know, people are who look like me, who I've had conversations with recently. I mean, you know, part of it is just geography. It's like my cabin is up in the mountains in the middle of fucking nowhere. But when I'm back in the Bay Area, it's like I'm in the Bay Area. You know, we're not seeing the things on our streets here like what are happening in Minneapolis or Los Angeles or Washington, D.C. or Chicago. Those things just aren't happening here. So it's a very insulated, it's like an insulated geographic existence within all of these layers of privilege that I have. So it's like I might as well be living inside of a bank vault, you know? But there's some uncomfortable times. There's some uncomfortable times immediately ahead of us for white Americans. How much are we individually going to be willing to put on the line to actually risk?
Okay, that was Hawks Podcast. Y'all been watching my channel, then y'all seen me share some of his content before. So yeah, that was Hawk. And I got some points that I jotted down from Hawks Podcast that I wanted to touch on. So yeah, he's that's why I share a lot of these white Americans, white male American podcast content. The ones that speak like him, man. Like, I think it hit a little different when we see them saying or parroting, like what black people feel. It hit a little different. And also y'all, if y'all haven't been watching my content, then but I did say this, and I've said it many times in other videos. Talking about black people is the key to success. So I'm not gonna sit up here and say that I think Hawk is 100% genuine. I'm not, because to talk about black people really in any kind of way is the key to success. So to down them, a lot of even black podcasters talk about black people and they blow up. Candace Owens, for instance, Amazing Lucas, he talk about us in a great way. Black podcaster, he blew up. So yeah, and I'm in it too. Look, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm not exempt. But either way, Hawk, I love his points. He said, and I'm gonna add to it. I'm gonna respond to his points, but I'm gonna add to it because he seems to be conflicted with the problem. He don't have no real solutions. I'm gonna give solutions, but I want to address what he said first. Charlie Kirk saying that the civil rights was a mistake. Okay, so I'm gonna start with that one. Not only was it not a mistake, but what the civil rights with people modern day, especially white America and some black Americans, where they are conflicted or misguided on is the times, like how overt things were and how like the conditions of our people, and that redlining, especially, I think that was the real, that and all the everything in every system. So not only was the civil rights, passing of the civil rights, a great thing, more should have been done. That's what I would say. More should have been done, and a whole lot more should have been done. So passing of them laws, they always talk about, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We wasn't given no bootstraps. We wasn't given no boots with the civil rights. What we were given were figuratively shoestrings. We had to go find our own boots. We was given some straps, maybe. Or maybe, yeah, I would say we were given straps. But we had to still go get our own boots, and we had to, basically we had to still be qualified for any opportunity. Like we weren't given anything, right? So we had to go grab our own boots and use them, them straps that the government gave us to tie the boots, you know. Um, so yeah, we should have did more civil rights wise. War on drugs, and Hawk touched on how our people, it's been a war on our people continuously. It never stopped. So the war on drugs, Nixon administration, that whole era, right? In the beginning of, like you said, the 40-year reign of Republicans, in and out of office, slowly chipping away at, all the points that he made about, taking away the taxes that used to tax the rich, right? And building of the middle class and all of that, right? So, yeah, we felt that, but that was what made us resilient, especially when it came to the opioid epidemic, the opioid crisis, however they want to, formulate it. So that really everything that our people went through pretty much gave us antibodies to be here to help these white people who just now finding out that this country isn't for them. We are their solution. Now is the time for black people to help these white people from themselves and taking us down with them. Yeah, that illusion that white supremacy has afforded the wool to be pulled over these white folks' eyes. It has harmed them in a way where now the whole world it can be taken out because of this false ideology. So yeah, we are here. Everything that we went through, including the war on drugs, the incarceration of our people, building of all the prison industrial complex, it has given us a resolve that it can't be created. Like, this is priceless. This is our time to save humanity, really, from itself. And it's only right that we are the ones to save it. We are the ones who, the original people. So it's only right that we save the people that came from us. So yeah, and oh yeah, he said Susan B. Anthony, yeah, she fought for the right to vote. I remember reading about her in history when I was a kid, and I felt it. I always felt it. I know, what I'm saying, because I remember my grandmother, being given the right to vote in the 60s. So I knew that she didn't fight for black women. I knew that. It's just, like, not being able to corroborate it back then was kind of frustrating. Especially when they got you writing these essays in school about all of these people. People write our some of my sisters, or some of the young brothers. We writing essays about Susan B. Anthony, and it's like, man, but so I always kind of felt that, these people, they didn't care about no black people. No way, Jose. And yeah, so Hawk said, now whites are being targeted, and that just kind of go back to that poem I just read on my last live, on my last video. When they came for the socialists, I did not say nothing because I wasn't a socialist. When they came for the unionists, I did not say nothing because I wasn't a unionist. When they came for the Jews or the tradesmen, I did not say nothing because I wasn't a tradesman. When they came for the Jewish people, I didn't say nothing because I wasn't Jewish. When they came for me, it was no one left to speak up for me. So
that's the moment that this country is in. White America is at that place like, damn, I don't know what to say. And all I'm going to say is reparations. Reparations is the key, is the answer. Reparations. And that's what I meant when I said, we should have did more than civil rights. That's what I meant when I said that. All these young people that just want to ignore history and want to reverse what happened. What y'all gotta know is we should have did more the civil rights era. We should have did more. That was simply a token, really, to get black people to shut up, you know what I'm saying, and act civilized, pretend and go along with the bullshit. That's what the civil rights movement really represented to white folks more than anything. So we should have got reparations. And right now is the time for reparations. Right now is the time. It's not the time to do what they did in the 60s and pretend like, oh, we're cool. No, it's time to fully address what's going on in our country or what has happened in our country so we can fully move forward. Reparations. That's the key, Hawk, and all white men that's, like Hawk, Paul Lance, all of y'all. And yeah, like any forward-thinking person, like in order to move forward, we have to address the past. Ain't that what we learn in therapy when we talking to our therapists, when they want to talk about our childhood, talk about the unresolved issues that we have? This country, with its 250th anniversary or birthday, we need to fix. I think it's nothing gonna fix what happened in the past, but we need to at least address it, fully address it, head on. No matter who feels uncomfortable about it, we need to address the past and get over it and move on, but not really fully rectifying it, making amends. That's what I learned going to AA. You make amends, And so that would be the answer. As much as Hawk was grappling with the issue, he wasn't quite sure what to say. I'm going to say it for him. Reparations. That's how we get through it. Acknowledging it, apologizing formally, a declaration from this country, putting it in. And let me add this. We need to get rid of the Supreme Court justices. That's all I'm going to say about that. Not harming them. I'm saying get rid of them. We need to get them out of there. I don't know how, but they are actually helping this administration do what it's doing. And man, that's the answer. I know it's going to be a whole lot of haters when we get to reparations, but hey, man, that's that bad side of our, collective consciousness that, eventually we'll have to look in the mirror and deal with their own issues, So yeah, man, look, I'm gone till the next time. I'll be back. All right, y'all have a good night.
It's Marlon Speaks Live, yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Yeah, it's truth over comfort, I don't pick no side. If it shake the room a little, let the truth collide. Cause it's Marlon Speaks Live, no script, no disguise. I don't sell no lies, just to monetize. Cause the past still breathing and it never dies. Yeah, it's Marlon Speaks Live, now the truth will rise. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live, yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the